simplest way to get the passive infrared motion detector program is to just go to Import, go to Programs, and type in Grove PIR. You should be able to pull up this example here. Now if we open this up and take a look at main.cpp, we can see that this is our code, and if we just double click on motion.rise, we can click over here and we can take a look at the interrupt in class reference, or we can simply under embed just go to interrupt in here. And what it shows you is we have rise, fall, enable, and disable, and there's a little example here of some code. So what we see here is we have motion has been declared to be part of the interrupt in class, and it's associated with pin D6. Here we have a function, and what we're doing with this function is taking the address of this function and putting it into the IRQ vector address. And what happens on a rising edge from the motion detector, it's going to execute this function, and that's the only way it's ever going to execute this function, is when there's a rising edge of voltage coming from the motion detector. Now notice up here we've got a global variable called motion detected, and we set it to 0. Now if we take a look in our mainline code here, if 0 means it's never going to execute any of this code as long as motion detected is going to remain 0. So the only way it's going to change is if the voltage changes on the motion detector, and on the rising edge it's going to execute this, which is going to change the value from motion detected equals 0 to motion detected equal 1. Because if it says if 1, it's going to execute this code which adds 1 to the count. It's going to then reset motion detected back to 0, and then it's going to print this message. And then again it's going to sit in this loop and wait until the voltage rises from the motion detector. We get a rising edge from it. It's going to set this back to 1 and do this over and over again. So this is how this code works. When my motion detector detects motion, it's going to put up on the display that it's detected it one more time than the previous. So every time I move my hand here, it's going to detect that. However, if I move my hand here too quickly, it's not going to detect every time that my hand goes past the motion detector. So there's a certain length of time that it takes to respond to a new change from the last time. And that's sort of a latency of the passive infrared motion detector.